Hello, Year 3, it's Mr. Baglin again. Welcome to this online history lesson. During these lessons we are going to be learning all about the Romans. At certain points during the lesson you will see an icon appear on the screen like this. When you see it, pause the video and complete the task you have been asked to do. It might be to write down an answer, or just to think and talk about a question. You can also pause the video at any time and go back through the text to find evidence to help you to answer these questions. Are you ready? Our target today is I am learning that the first invasion was attempted by Julius Caesar. In this lesson, we're going to learn about Julius Caesar and his invasion of the British Isles. As we go through the slides, I want you to take notes. Don't worry, I'll be taking notes which you can magpie. Taking notes is a skill that you're going to work at and develop as you go through school. You need specific questions to frame your research and keep your notes relevant. On the next page, you will see some of the things to remember when making notes. Always write keywords and phrases, not complete sentences. Use abbreviations where possible. Use space to make notes clear. Use techniques to make things stand out. Colour, block capitals, lists, and so on. You can use diagrams or patterns to help you remember. Keep a note of your sources so that you can go back to them. Use your own words where possible. Take time to go over notes. Organise them under headings so that you can find what you want easily. Who was Julius Caesar? Julius Caesar was born on July the 13th, 100 BCE. He was a great soldier and general. He helped to take over new land for the Roman Empire. He was stabbed to death at the meeting of the Senate in 44 BCE, and the era of the Republic ended. Pause the video and go back through the previous information to create some notes of your own. Alternatively, magpie the notes that I am going to write on the next page. Okay, so when we take notes, we need to keep it nice and brief, not writing full sentences, and we just need to keep a note of what we're writing about. So the first set of notes we're going to write are about Julius Caesar. Okay, and we can choose different colours if you've got different coloured pens or pencils. Okay, so we can say Julius Caesar was, what did we say on the last page? He was born on July 13th in 100 BCE. And if you remember from our work on timelines, BCE was before the Common Era, so before Jesus was born. Okay, so I'm going to take advantage. I'm going to change colour. And we can also make a quick note that it said in there that he was a great soldier and general. Yeah, we can see that. And we can also just make a note of when he died. We don't really need lots of the other information. So we just need to make a note that he died in the year 44 BCE. So he was actually about 56 when he died, wasn't he? 6 to 50 plus 50 takes us up to that 100. Now, if you wanted to, you could say that he was murdered as well. That might be a nice little note that we can keep. So really, that's all we need to do. I've got my little heading, so actually could underline that. That's who we're talking about, when he was born, who he was, when he died, how he died. Why did the Romans invade Britain? Britain was full of natural resources, and the Romans believed that it would be of great benefit to the empire if the island could be successfully invaded.
Look! This is where Julius Caesar landed, on this stony beach at Walmer in Kent, about 5 miles away from Dover.
I don't believe you. How do you know?
I know, because we Celts weren't too far away. We were warned he was coming by the Celtic tribes we knew over in Gaul. So we covered ourselves in war paint and waited for him. Whoa, we looked pretty fierce, I can tell you.
Well, you didn't frighten him away, did you?
Well, not at first. But we were brave enough to take him on, and he had 10,000 men and 500 cavalry. The storms finished him off.
The storms finished him off. Caesar wouldn't be bothered by a bit of bad weather.
Well, maybe not as a rule, but he was when his ships started getting stuck in this shingle. Well, you see, Caesar and his army didn't land at a proper harbour, so when the storms came, his ships weren't protected and started to get damaged. Well, that's why he hurried back to Gaul.
Probably had a bit of important business to attend to.
Well, whatever his reason, it was good news for us Celts. Meant you Romans stayed out of Britain a bit longer. I don't really know why you wanted to come here in the first place. You already had a huge empire.
We had lots of reasons.
Like what?
Like what? I'll show you.
From the 8th century BC, the Roman Empire began to grow. In 55 BC, Julius Caesar had gone as far as conquering France, but he wanted to go further. He believed Britain had lots of minerals like iron, silver and gold, which would increase the wealth of the empire and add to his glory back in Rome. After landing in Britain, Caesar soon fled when his ships got damaged in a storm. He came back a year later in 54 BC with an even bigger army. He fought the Britons and moved further inland, then decided to go back to France and never returned. In 43 AD, the Romans invaded Britain again, this time following orders from Emperor Claudius.
You see, we were always quick to spot something worth having.
Like that gadget, I suppose.
We Romans, we would have invented one of these eventually, you know. We were very quick off the mark.
Pause the video and go back through the previous information to create some notes of your own. Alternatively, Magpie the notes that I am going to write on the next page. Now that we've watched our video on why the Romans invaded, and we've seen the slide, so we need to make a few notes for that. So we need to just make a note of what we're writing about. So it's why did the Romans invade? Why did the Romans invade? I'll put a question mark there. And it actually said they invaded because Britain, and I'm just going to put full of natural resources. Doesn't have to be a full sentence. Doesn't have to be on the line. It could be like bullet points. You could put it just like this. It doesn't have to follow. We're not really going to be using these notes. Sorry, these notes are just going to be used to write something else. Okay, today we're practicing how to use them, how to write notes. And in the video, it said that the resources were iron, silver, and gold. So that's why the Romans came. I've used colours. So if you look, you can see iron, silver, gold. You can see that they're three different words, and you can see that they really stand up off the page in our note section on why did the Romans invade. The first Roman invasion of Britain. In 55 BCE, Julius Caesar invaded Britain with 2 Roman legions. The Romans fought several battles against different Celtic tribes before returning to Gaul, modern-day France. In 54 BCE, Caesar returned to Britain with a much larger army. He crossed the English Channel with 5 Roman legions, landing near Deal in Kent. The Romans marched inland and crossed the River Thames. Again, they fought against the Celtic tribesmen and demonstrated the strength and power of the Roman Empire. Caesar agreed to leave Britain, but only if the tribes agreed to make a tribute payment to Rome. Pause the video and go back through the previous information to create some notes of your own. Alternatively, Magpie the notes that I am going to write on the next page. Okay, so you've had quite a lot of information about the first Roman invasion of Britain, so we need to make some notes on that. So the first, just use numbers, Roman invasion. Okay, of Britain. We know it's about Britain. I don't need to write Britain. It's just my notes. First Roman invasion. Okay, so when did it happen? The first date that we saw was 55 BCE. And it was Julius Caesar who invaded. And he came with 2 legions. So we're not writing a full sentence, we're just writing little bullet points, or a bullet point for this one. Okay. And I might like to make a note that he left quite quickly. That he left quickly. We can say as well from there that he came back a year later, 54 BCE, this time with 5 legions. And to cut it all, they fought Celtic tribes, and left when the tribes agreed to pay him, or pay Rome. Left when the tribes agreed to pay Rome. So there we go. Notes on there. Doesn't have to be well written. Doesn't have to be particularly neat, but you need to get those facts. So the first Roman invasion, 55 BCE, Julius Caesar, 2 legions. He left quite quickly. Came back in 54 BCE with more soldiers. He fought the tribes, but left when they agreed to pay Rome. That's all you need to write. What was the Roman army like? The Roman army was incredibly well organised, well trained and highly disciplined. Only men were allowed to be Roman soldiers, and they had to be Roman citizens and at least 20 years old. The Roman army was divided up into about 30 legions. Each legion was made up of between 4,000 to 6,000 soldiers. The soldiers were known as legionaries. Each legion was made up of 10 cohorts. A normal cohort contained 480 soldiers. These soldiers were divided into 6 groups of 80, and these were called centuries and were led by a centurion. Within each century, the men were further divided into groups of 8, called a contubernium. These 8 men would share a tent when the legion camped. The first cohort in every legion was larger than the other cohorts. It was made up of 5 double centuries, an extra 200 soldiers. The Roman soldier who had command of the whole legion was known as a legate. Each legion also had a group of 120 horsemen attached to it. They were used as scouts and to send messages. We are going to see a video now which gives a really good picture of how a Roman legion was organised. Imagine how scary it would look if you were in the opposing army.
By the year 100 BC, under the supervision of the consul and general Gaius Marius, the Roman legion looked as follows. The basic building block was the 8-man contubernium. 10 contubernia would equal a century of 80 men. 6 centuries would make a cohort, which was basically 480 men. This was the basic building block of the legion. There were 10 cohorts in a legion, the first cohort having an additional 200 men to add extra strength. It was considered the elite cohort, making the rounded strength of a Roman legion about 5,000 men. Now, the deployment of the legion was very interesting. Here we see some footage from the movie Spartacus. Spartacus' slave rebellion occurring in 71 BC. At this time, the Marian reforms have had time to work their way throughout the legion. And we see here on a vast scale the deployment of a cohort legion in a quincunx, or 5-sided die formation. To us, it would look like a checkerboard. And to an opponent facing such a juggernaut, it must have been utterly terrifying to watch the precision and discipline and organization of the Roman legion on display. So each one of those boxes that you see is a cohort of 480 men. There are 10 of them, if you care to pause and count. Stanley Kubrick, the director of this movie, did a wonderful job in recreating the deployment of a post-Marian Roman legion. So you see one legion in the forefront and a second legion approaching from behind it. And the thing about the gaps in the lines are somewhat controversial amongst historians as to how this would actually work. We have the sources of Polybius and Livy explaining various theories as to how the gaps would be closed. I think Kubrick has done a pretty good job here illustrating that at a given signal, just prior to confronting an opponent, the various lines or maniples of a legion would close ranks, presenting a solid front to the enemy. And the advance would continue. Here we see the front rank continuing its advance, while those back cohorts close ranks. And again, all this in the face of the enemy gives you some idea of how impressive the Romans were in their ability to carry out tactical maneuvers with a great deal of precision and organization. And if you're the enemy watching this, you know that you are dealing with an army of trained professionals. So let's take a look at how the average legionary would fight. The primary weapon system was the gladius, a 24-inch short sword that the Romans practiced quick stabbing motions, as is illustrated here. The Romans would often use stabbing posts and repeat over and over and over again in countless training exercises using heavy wooden sticks, heavier than the actual sword itself, to prepare.
Pause the video and go back through the previous information to create some notes of your own. Alternatively, Magpie the notes that I am going to write on the next page. Okay, so I've got a slightly bigger page for this one because I know I'm going to have to write quite a lot of information. So this one is about the Roman army. And we were presented with quite a few facts and figures. In the text, it kind of said that there were 30 legions. Okay. Doesn't tell you how many people were in that 30 legion. It kind of splits it down. It kind of divides it down. So we could say that each legion there were 4,000 to 6,000 soldiers, weren't there? And they were called legionaries. Quite a long word. But each legion had a legionary. Makes sense, doesn't it? Then it said that the legions were split. So legion, that was split into, what were they called? The cohorts. Let's go back. You can go back through and look at it again. Legion, split into cohorts, I think they were called. But again, we can go back and have a look. Cohorts. I'll keep on changing colour. So one cohort. There were 480 men, weren't there? Soldiers. And then it told us that the cohort was divided. Cohort. into 6 groups. And they were called, what were they called? Centuries, weren't they? Again, let's go back. Centuries. Led by a centurion. And then the centuries divided again. Divided into groups of 8 men. And they were called contubernium. So we packed an awful lot of information into this page of notes, haven't we? I've used different colours to try and make the different names stand out, the different facts stand out. Okay. Now, all of the notes that we've written, you're more than welcome to Magpie, because it's really good practice and quite a good example of how to take notes. Thank you for your hard work today. I'll see you next week for some more historical hilarity.